Okay, AI here, everywhere. Everyone's talking about it, but and there's clearly a lot of good things, but alongside all the good, there's a range of security and compliance issues that it has sort of brought to the table, should we say. So I guess it'd just be good to understand how these sort of new AI security problems are being managed, if at all, or the reasons are they reasons why people say, oh, well, we can't do AI because we're not sure of the security implications. So I guess just how is AI impacting security and compliance?
I feel great to be here with you today. Thank you again for having me. Great question around AI. It's one of the biggest questions I think we get in any given week is, what does it mean for us as a business? What does it mean for me as a prospective IT customer or security customer? And I think the answer is varied all over the place. I think the biggest way to think about AI is like during the dot-com boom in the late 90s. It is the biggest, newest, fanciest thing all technologists can really gravitate and fixate on. It has tremendous amounts of opportunity to make individuals more efficient, to do things faster, cheaper. But on the same side, it does have some implicit risks. And we are seeing that initially with when we think about personal identifiable information. So your data, as in who am I as an individual, my first name, my last name, maybe my addresses, any kind of sensitive information is on the forefront of most CISOs' mind in terms of protecting. When we think about the various solutions, there's lots of them. They're all very good. None is better than another one. But there are various free versions of these software. And when you start to think about how do I interact with them, I'm going to exchange information with them, and I'm going to effectively get something out, whether it's to create a document, whether it's to exchange information and get an answer for a question. That exchange is very simplistic from a user's perspective. But the data that I exchange with it is no longer mine. And so that's one of the biggest concerns that we have as security professionals. When you're using these free services, they are taking from you information to effectively train their model, their data science model, to get better at returning these types of information, these types of questions that you are engaging with them, or these types of requests to create artifacts and documents. So it is that exchange from a free perspective that has lots of security folks questioning, concerning what types of information, potentially even restricting that types of data. So it's very important for folks to read the fine details when they do go to these various solutions that are free, that are available on any website to use. What are you exchanging with it? Does that matter to me as an individual? Am I giving it my first and last name as an example? And what do they do with that data? All of that will be defined in their privacy policy or their security policy, but it will be in, like what we say, the fine print details of any contract. It is there for folks to recognize. It is there for folks to be able to see. That's predominantly the main theme that we think of with perspective to users, the average any day specific individual, and they engage with these types of services, the number one risk that they should be aware of. The next big thing that we see is really more tailored for technology organizations, those that have information systems that they need to protect, that they want to be able to control, who has access to, what data types are exposed to them, et cetera. We are seeing now more and more adversarial activities using AI models. And how we see that really is predominantly coming through with like email phishing. So we get nefarious emails. I think we all see and recognize what spam is. I click on this link. Now I'm signed up to receive a bunch of marketing emails or sales emails. And adversaries are using that engagement to artificially construct malicious emails and with the sole goal of trying to perpetrate into your environment or your system. So it is what we call phishing. It is very nefarious. They are getting very, very good. A lot of the emails look like your most favorite type of services. And as individuals, we are all wired to look at types of things, to be interested in things that matter to us. And AI makes it very easy for adversaries to be able to craft those emails to specifically target individuals within organizations. So it is a very significant risk that more and more folks need to be aware of. We, even at NinjaOne, are seeing an incredibly high uptick in those types of phishing targeting us with leveraging Ninja. Again, if we think about answering questions, we think about the Gen AI component, being able to artificially create things that didn't exist before very fast and quickly. The same adversaries are using those technologies to target and craft emails for us. We're seeing AI benefit a lot of on the reverse end. We have a lot of tools that are now on the flip side of that, using AI to be able to identify when these types of phishing components come due and are hitting our email servers. But it is still a very new technology. It is something that we do need to be aware of. We haven't quite seen yet what we're all really afraid of, and that is folks being able to leverage AI for adversaries, nefarious purposes, to be able to penetrate into various systems, to be able to look at various endpoints, to be able to exchange data types, to be able to effectively fast track what we would call testing or exploitation of web services. We know that is coming. We are seeing little bits and signs of tooling, very common open source tooling to embrace and leverage these AI models. We know that's where the industry is going. So that is what we're trying to prepare for from a technology perspective, is when adversaries can actually leverage AI to interrogate web services, websites, our favorite maybe e-commerce websites, our favorite stores that we like to leverage, and penetrate into those services. We are preparing for that. We are seeing upticks in that, but not to the level that we have concerns about from like individuals using these free services online with their privacy data, or what we're seeing right now with various phishing emails. So those three things are at the forefront of most cybersecurity and professionals to be aware of, to begin to advertise to individuals that at least these two pieces are already here today, and we're seeing the signs of this third one coming very, very soon.
Yeah, and funny enough, I was having a conversation with someone earlier today. They were suggesting as well that vibe coding, which was a fairly new one on me, but that, although obviously very attractive for people, also comes with some added security risk there. So it's getting the landscape. AI is bringing, as you say, more benefits but more risk with it. But is one of the pluses the fact, because AI is new and people are trying to get to grips with it and understand that there are sort of pluses and minuses, is it being something of a catalyst for, should we say, the traditional IT and the security folks who we know silos have existed since, I don't know, since Noah probably built his ark, but are we now getting a bit more collaboration as people realize just how important it is for everybody to understand the potential risks as well as the positives when it comes to AI and security?
Without a doubt, I think you're actually, in your previous example, you're highlighting one of the benefits. Again, faster code delivery. So being able to be more efficient with less resources and effectively produce more lines of code, as we say in the industry, which ultimately to most customers is going to be more features, more products, more services that we can leverage. And because of that benefit, just like when we engage with, from a very simplistic code, create me something AI that is my favorite band or my favorite sports team, as you can see behind me. It is that simple when we think about leveraging AI to develop and go faster, to be more efficient. And it is because of that efficiency, we are seeing faster and faster collapsing of these two traditional silos between IT and security. They have to partner with one another. They have to be aware of what services and folks are building. But because we're leveraging the same tools, it's bridging that knowledge gap of what traditionally was seen as more of an IT thing or more of a cybersecurity thing. And we're seeing those collapse and get closer and closer and closer together, because oftentimes it's the exact same tool just being leveraged by different teams. So the AI component is bridging the gap on what traditionally would have been, maybe we defer to a service desk because I don't know how to do this, and maybe an endpoint, a laptop, or a device. I can quickly go ask AI, what is this specific component that maybe matter to me in this particular question? And AI can basically give me that answer in a matter of seconds. So that enablement, that efficiency gain is effectively allowing me to do more with less individuals, less people, less services, because AI can bridge that knowledge gap. It's the same thing and the same idea when we think about having a bunch of graphic designers building all these various marketing documents, advertising pieces. We can ask AI to go develop and build that, and it can do that very fast, very quickly. So there are significant benefits, not only for IT and cybersecurity, but in general. Any kind of specific topic or around like being able to generate something that was very specific to a unique area or team, we're seeing more and more folks that maybe don't have that direct experience being able to bridge a lot of that gap because of AI, because it is this big repository of answers and capabilities.
Okay, and in terms of sort of enabling or helping that process of closer collaboration, are there things that work across all organizations in terms, I guess it's the classic people, processes, products. I mean, how do people manage this transition to closer collaboration and getting the benefits of AI without any of the minimizing the risks, shall we say, because everyone is working together as opposed in silos?
Yeah, great question. So when we think about how do we tear down some of these silos, I think AI is really helpful and being able to bridge this knowledge gap and being able to articulate that in conversations with other teams, I think is really priority number one for most folks to be able to start tearing down the silos. I now know a little bit about what marketing does, as an example, or I now know what IT does or what security does. I have some basic knowledge, fundamental information that I could begin to share and have more conversations. I was able to do or answer this type of question begins the foster of this collaboration and begins because now we're all speaking the same language, we're having the same terms, we're able to do a lot more faster. And because of that, intrinsic, these silos that have traditionally operated independently are becoming more and more closer together. From a risk perspective, again, one of the biggest things we recommend, many of these AI firms have subscription-based models for corporations, for entities to be able to subscribe and pay to. There are tremendous benefits from that. One of them is that my data that I exchange with a lot of these services, if I'm a subscriber, a paid subscriber, that data remains with me. I can maintain complete ownership of that data. And it's one of the number one recommendations that we provide to anyone that may ask about AI is to subscribe to these services, even if it's a small individual license or a corporate license. There are ways to be able to minimize your risk with leveraging these services to protect the data that you interact with. The second piece of that is to be able to look for technologies like NinjaOne that are being able to extend or expand into AI capabilities. One of the great things that we provide for our customers is automated endpoint management. So we're able to leverage AI to be able to enforce various policies, patching components, maybe determining which patches should be applied, which ones are easy to apply as a way to be able to provide intrinsic value. So our encouragement to customers or to others is to look for tools that folks are being able to leverage, that are embracing the AI, that provide some intrinsic value. Most organizations that we are aware of today are looking at AI from a product's perspective on how to enable that so that our customers can continue to grow for that. So two very, very good ways for organizations to take the AI, as I call it, the AI train, embrace it, to be able to leverage it, protect yourself, but then find new ways through collaboration and involvement with others on how to embrace this AI momentum that we really find ourselves in front of.
Okay, and I'm also thinking maybe I mean, back in the days of cloud, there was suddenly the spectre of shadow IT. Everyone with a credit card could kind of fire up a virtual server or whatever. The marketing department and the IT department was potentially cut out of the loop. Although I think over the years that's been addressed. But is there a danger with AI that we're coming the threat of shadow IT's back again? Because as you say, we can all go online and ask ChatGPT or anyone else and do a lot of stuff, and without necessarily knowing the security implications to what you said earlier. So how big a problem is it, or could it become, I guess, in terms of AI and shadow IT?
100% the best question that I worry about every single week. Because these services are free, they're very easy. And a lot of us interact with them in our own personal lives on a daily basis. I don't know if you have an Apple phone or Android phone, you go into Facebook, or, whatever services that we love, many of them are leveraging AI in the background, or maybe processing your information, or folks are just flat out using them to answer and ask questions. There is a lot of personal use of AI going on with individuals. We see it at NinjaOne. We see it with many of our cohorts and peer groups, and also our customers. It is a prolific issue. It is something that we deal with every single week at NinjaOne. We provide paid services for a lot of our customers, and yet every week we do see and we do catch individuals that are using the free versions, and we have to remind them, do not use the free version. We have these paid services, and where did we go wrong? So it becomes a process of almost investigation. Do we have the visibility on the systems and services that we care about? And do we know what those systems, and so those laptops as an example, do we know what websites those services, those laptops are going and seeing? So if we do see these free services, luckily for them, they're all very known, wildly used websites. If we see individuals using those services, then we know that there is something afoot, and we can have that education conversation. We can have that corrective behavior with that employee so that we can course correct them, and please use this paid service that's available very specifically through this conduit or this specific service that we spin up here at NinjaOne. And so it becomes that information awareness. Are you aware of what your employees are accessing? And do you have the visibility to know that I am engaging with this free service that is not necessarily by itself dangerous, but the information that you exchange with it may be proprietary. It may be intellectual property. It may be sensitive information. And are you aware that that data exchange is happening? So that, from a capability perspective, we encourage all of our customers, all of our peer groups to explore, how do you close that gap? That's the race that we all are feeling right now in our current roadmaps, our current initiatives, is how do we close that gap as quickly and effectively as possible? It has a lot of really good intrinsic values from a cybersecurity perspective, knowing which endpoints are connected to what. Lots of good ways to do that. There's not just one way to be able to understand that data, but highly, highly encourage everybody to think about, how do I know my laptops, my mobile devices, the things that I care about, the things that can bring my business down to a complete stop? How do I know what they're interacting with? And if these are these free services, and if these are these potentially dangerous AI services, are we aware, and can we put some protective measures in place to prevent those employees from interacting with that? In NinjaOne, it's more of an education process. We know when somebody hits these particular websites. Our policy, our process to have a conversation. Again, right now, it's more about education. We're not necessarily in kind of this enforcement model where you must use this, but it's really, were you aware of these paid services that we have? Are you aware of how to access them? And more importantly, what was their specific reason for you to be able to leverage these on a corporate or company issued device? Highly, highly encourage folks to be able to think about that scenario, because it is at that specific point in time, if you are not aware, this shadow AI leverage and use case will be a thing, and it will be very difficult to unravel human behavior if they're trained. I can just go to this particular site, leverage it, use it. Why do I need to go here? Nobody knows, nobody says anything. So it's that education process. It is really that awareness that we're trying to emphasize this year.
Okay, so I guess we're sort of thinking that clearly AI has many benefits which are attractive to folks, but it's also introducing significant new cybersecurity and compliance sort of considerations. Do you have any sense, I think you mentioned earlier that so far you're not seeing the bad actors do anything sort of horrendously new, but obviously they are using AI, I guess, to write better, phishing emails or whatever. But do you have any sense as to, has it changed the balance at all? Because clearly it's a cat and mouse game all the time. But is AI, do you think the benefits outweigh the potential downside, or vice versa, or is it, I say, pretty much an even equation, if you like?
Phenomenal question. It's always the thing that I ask myself as the Chief Trust Officer for NinjaOne. Are we implementing components and features to benefit our customers, and what are the trade-offs for those specific benefits or additions? I think to answer your question plainly, I think the benefits of AI right now are outweighing the detraction or the negatives of AI. Yes, we do worry about privacy data. Yes, we do see an increase in phishing. Yes, we are worried about potentially leveraging AI to automate penetration into various systems and services. The efficiency gains, the ability to close and collapse those silos, as we were talking about earlier, in my opinion, right now outweigh any of the negative aspects of AI. And the reason for that is that we see the adoption of AI, the production of services that are leveraging AI, the benefits to us as consumers, as organizations are way up on the exponential scale side. We're seeing, depending upon geography, we do see upticks in certain areas with AI. But as an example, in North America, the adoption of nefarious adversarial activities within North America is upticking, but not at the level of where we're seeing the adoption and benefit of AI. So there is a significant difference, at least this year. Will that eventually level out and even out? That is personally my prediction. I do think at some point we will reach a plateau of what AI can provide from a benefit, and we'll see as more and more adversaries begin to adopt and build tools around AI, they will continue to gather up to the benefits. But that's probably a future-facing statement, not necessarily one that we see today. Whether it's next year or 2 or 3 years from down the road, I can't tell you for sure, but I do see at some point in the future it kind of leveling out with the benefit.
Okay, and in terms of we've talked a lot about AI cybersecurity, but are there any other sort of significant cybersecurity or sort of wider, I guess, digital transformation issues that you're particularly concerned with or seeing a lot of? I don't know. I mean, I'm still intrigued as to whether everyone has returned to the office or people are still working remotely, but has everyone got to grips with the implications of that? But what are you seeing? Any other sort of significant things going on?
It's a fun question. At least in North America, there is a bigger momentum to get back into the office. It's not something that we see holistically across every organization. It does vary. And really, I think we see it very more so with maybe more of traditional organizations that were always in person. Or we see organizations where maybe I have really large investments in infrastructure, office buildings, services for my employees, or maybe just a culture thing. So we do see that happening more and more. But I really find it very difficult to believe that remote work, distributed workforces is a thing of the past. I know with COVID, it expedited the organizations to kind of embrace that methodology. We at Ninja, from our customer perspective, still see that predominantly from a lot of organizations where they have a mixed workforce. And because of that, we are extending the surface area for an attack surface. And because of that, little things do genuinely matter from a protection perspective. Our organization's patching. It is still the #1 issue we see. So #1 thing that we try to make folks aware of, obviously, is the phishing threat. That is a huge, huge issue that more and more organizations are facing. Cannot stress it enough. Phishing is very real. 90+% of all breaches start and begin with a phish of some kind. But patching is the next biggest thing. And it is really like 1A, 1B that we see predominantly burn organizations. Being unaware of what vulnerabilities, and when we think about vulnerabilities, we're not necessarily talking about like 0-day vulnerabilities, things that maybe nobody had any past information. These are vulnerabilities that we would often consider that are low-hanging fruit, things that, there has been published erratas about the definition of what that vulnerability is for some time, and we just simply missed patching that vulnerability. There is a lag delay between when we think about a 0-day exploit or versus this is actually a known vulnerability. We now have it plugged into all of our various security testing tools. When we see that latter part is where we as organizations should be really worried, because now that vulnerability is plugged in to just about every known published tool out there for an exploitation, for a testing, for good purposes. But unfortunately, adversaries will use that for nefarious purposes. So 9 out of 10 times, we see an exploitation of vulnerabilities associated with that type of vulnerability. It's something that's been around for a long time. We just didn't know that that particular device needed to be patched, or we just missed it. Or maybe somebody added a package that they just didn't realize was the very latest and patched version. It is very, very common, very something folks need to be aware of to fix in their environment. It's very easy most of the time to apply the patch, very difficult to be aware of my environment and have the information, the intel to know that it is there, it is present, and it is exploitable. That's a very big component that I don't see going away anytime soon. And unfortunately, the whole movement of a distributed workforce, working from home, working from remote offices, exasperates that particular issue as well, because now I have all these systems connecting into the same services that I used to have in one physical building or one physical campus, distributed across potentially geographies. And that becomes very challenging for many organizations to try to get ahead of. It's one of the really neat features that we often will leverage at NinjaOne. It's part of what we believe in and what we see as a tremendous benefit for our products and for our customers. But there are a lot of other great solutions that are also trying to solve that particular issue. The other big thing that folks really should be aware of is effective permissions and configurations of these endpoints. So the third biggest component, maybe there's not a vulnerability, but because they can steal maybe a session key or an API token, if I can get basic access and if that specific system is not locked down to the point where we've minimized the risk of whatever that key or token might be, that is still another low-hanging fruit item that we see coming again in organizations, and ultimately the cause of why they were breached. Maybe I had too many permissions associated for that user. Maybe I had too many services that were available and beaconing various open ports and sockets for folks to access. Very simplistic ideas, nothing revolutionary. We still continue to see these three things be a major theme. The idea of what we see in movies and televisions, 0 days, very fancy hacks, that exposure is very minimal. That we see more what I would consider government services, because most of the time it's going to be a nation state or some kind of nation-sponsored organization that's trying to leverage that for nefarious intelligence purposes. This type of stuff that we see in the private sector, commercial, general persons is really going to be around these three main bucketed areas: phishing, patching, and config management. Those three things I don't see anytime soon going away. And the more and more organizations that get the visibility, get the awareness to understand those three, the likelihood you're going to prevent and or delay a future breach.
Okay, that's brilliant. And maybe just a couple more things before we finish. I know that the term cyber resilience has been around for a little while, but do you think it's been helpful? I mean, back maybe to our collaboration point, it's at least potentially brought security and storage folks together, because that sort of cyber resilience. But do you think it's a helpful sort of slight refocusing of part of the cybersecurity or even the whole cybersecurity sort of landscape, or are there any downsides, or do you just think it's a helpful phrase for people to think about?
Without a doubt, incredibly helpful. And honestly, I have to thank you in the UK, and I have to thank the EU for being able to help us with the cyber resilience regulations that were passed. We all know about DORA. There's been various other like NIS2 controls that we're thinking about how do we implement a level of cyber resilience, because we see that on the opposite end. We all, I think, hear these various types of attacks. We think of denial of service attacks, distributed denial of service attacks, various nefarious operations that can literally overwhelm various services. We think about, what's another good example, like data exfiltration. We think about ransomware, all of these types of attacks that maybe Hollywood or the media will leverage and gravitate into television and or movies, really come back to how resilient we are in the terms of a cyber attack. Can we recover within a given specific tech, and do we have the processes in place? When we think about cyber incident response, we're really fixated on containing the specific event is a very specific word, and it has its basis around this cyber resilience component. Can we fundamentally take a cybersecurity incident? Can we effectively respond and contain and continue to be resilient or operational while that event is going on? The regulations that were passed by your country, by the European Union, are only going to benefit the industry as a whole, because it puts it no longer as a world-class, best-in-class optional kind of component, and it puts it in the forefront. In order to do business, we must be able to meet these requirements. So this is one of the few examples that I think, and I think GDPR was a good step in this right path as well. It is by making it a regulation, it puts it into the emphasis for all of these organizations that have to do this. We have to think about it in order to keep doing business. And it just moves the bar up another rung or another step in terms of maturity that many of us are already thinking about in terms of best-in-class, world-class type services. But it forces everybody else to have to move up and to be able to meet those demands in order to do business. So it pushes the folks that maybe would have gambled, maybe would have accepted the risk, maybe they were unaware that they should be thinking about cyber resilience, and puts it in the forefront that I have to do this in order to do business. So it's a good thing. It's one of the few examples where I think regulations by organizations and governments is actually improving the overall security for everyone, and ultimately the consumers, me, you, and everybody else.
Okay, and then maybe just finally yourselves, NinjaOne, it'd be good to understand anything you can share. Clearly, there'll be stuff that you're working on that's not for public consumption until you want to launch it, but just general direction of travel. What's on the roadmap? What sort of things can you hint at or tell us about?
Thank you so much for that. I'm excited to be able to be here and talk a little bit about NinjaOne. So NinjaOne is a products company. We build technologies for organizations to manage their laptops, their cell phones, their mobile devices. Our goal at NinjaOne is to provide a collective set of solutions for those organizations that would most commonly be required to manage these types of devices. So we are very excited to be able to introduce lots of new capabilities and functions for those organizations to do their job effectively, efficiently, and quickly, more so than any other solution they might be able to do. And we do so at a very competitive price point. With us at Ninja, we're very excited to be able to roll out our new patching software. We announced that earlier at RSA earlier this year. We have autonomous patch management. So when we think about how we leverage AI at Ninja, we are scraping all of the various social media sites, all of the various chatter forums, which you can imagine, for the telemetry about these patches. Everybody knows what a patch probably is, at least in your audience spectrum. And the biggest question that we get when Microsoft does their big Patch Tuesday, what does this mean for my operational resiliency? And am I going to have an outage? A lot of us test these patches before we roll them out. And what Ninja is doing is we're collecting all those data sets. Hey, I maybe go to my favorite Twitter site or my favorite Reddit site, and I'm saying about this patch, don't apply this patch, or with this specific hardware, this specific configuration, you may experience issues. And we're surfacing up all of that information to our customers in a very simplistic view. So as they roll these patches out, they may not necessarily have to invest the time and telemetry or the effort to be able to investigate, will this impact me? Because they can see based off of what we provide them, is this going to blow up in their environment? Yes, 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 no. Or wait a minute, this may cause issues. And that starts to simplify their world to allow them to do more. And effectively, as a security champion, I get to be able to see our customers apply these patches in a much more efficient and effective manner. So the time, when we think about an incident response, the containment process that I referenced earlier, that containment continues to reduce. So now our exposure to these various risks is less and less and less. We're very excited. In addition to that, we've got several really good integrations with some of the most prevalent leaders in endpoint detection and response. We partner very heavily with the various software leaders for those types of services. We provide a very integrated viewpoint. So within Ninja, not only can you manage the IT perspective, but you get to see all of the various incidents or the alerts that may be coming through from those EDR technologies in a single pane of glass within Ninja. And I know it might be a little cliche to say that, but from a ease of use and effectiveness, it allows our customers to be able to see which particular systems in their networks may have security issues, and we can systematically link the experience between the two softwares and have a very easy to use platform for those same types of customers to use the same types of tool sets, those security and IT folks, to begin to squish those silos that have been traditionally operating separately into a singular tool set. And that's, I think, part of the real big value that I get excited about at Ninja. We've got lots of other new features coming. We've got really cool things about MDM and how we manage mobile devices that are very coming. We do publish our roadmap. There's lots of really good information, but those are two really big highlights that I want to spend some time because they matter the most to me as a cybersecurity professional. We are really thinking about how do we bring these two teams, the security group and the IT group, closer together, and we believe Ninja is the tool to do so.
Okay, I mean, it's been fantastic to chat to you, and thank you so much for giving me time and showing so many great insights about what is going on, because clearly the world of AI is a new one for many people, and they have a lot of anxiety. So thank you for the great insights, and also obviously sharing a little bit more about NinjaOne. So Mike, appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Phil. Cheers.